Hello, friends. The lighting is a little bit strange today because it is just nonstop storms here in Texas lately. I'm like, please, dear Lord, let it not storm when we're leaving on Sunday for North Carolina because I really, please God, need a good flight after my flight to or from Boston home was just so bad. I'm like, please God. All right, let me move my mic a little bit. Can you guys hear me okay? So I saw some conversation happening about the workbook. So we're going to talk about that today. I did just go get my nails done. Look at the little cherries. They turned out so cute. So those of you that were with me on Twitch last night, thank you so much for joining me for a writing session. I got to just shy of 30,000 words, like about 28,000 words in the basically final edits of Disappearance of Vanessa Shaw, which I feel like I need to say final because there have been several times that I've thought, oh, this is the final edits, and then it's not. But this time it's actual final edits. SM Maple says, I'm behind on chats. Your office looks great. Thank you so much. I love it. But I usually sit this way, and there's a window right in front of me. So now I have lights here, but even the window today is not giving me any light, and my hair is just like not loving this humidity. We're doing okay, but look how cute this little, can you see that? It's like a little metal bow that goes in your hair. I've never worn it, but I got it in a kawaii box years ago. I was like, I'm gonna wear that. And this dress, it's a romper. Actually, it looks like a wrap dress, but it's a romper from Lily Pulitzer. It's so cute. But yes, for everybody that was here last night, I thought Evie had a fever of just like 100.2. And oh, it looks like a cherry stem. That's so cute, Dee Dee. That's so cute. I thought Evie had a fever of, one ear said like 99.6 and the other one said 100.2. And I was like, oh my gosh, I don't want her to miss the last day of school. But if she has a fever, she can't go to school. So I started my Twitch stream and I was kind of stressed about it. And then George texted me and was like, I just checked her temperature and she's at 98.5. And I was like, okay, well, I think what happened is she was laying on the Big Joe, which is like a big, she was like snuggling with George on the big beanbag chair thing that we have. And I think that she just, her ear was seeming hotter than it was because she's had no other fever. So we sent her off to school today. And I'm so glad. I was messaging Renee earlier. I'm so glad we sent her because she won 2 awards on the final day of school. I didn't even know they had awards for the little ones, but Andrew, I had told you guys before that he won a short story contest. So he won almost $200 this year by writing. And I'm so proud of my little 6th grade boy. He won a poetry contest this year, 3rd place. I'm not sure what place he got in the short story contest, but it's like all of Dallas. So like hundreds of people entered, and I'm so proud of him for that. So he got $50 today, and he also got honor roll every single quarter this year. So I was very proud of him for that. Then Evie, they did like they didn't have grades or anything in pre-K, but they had each of the specials teachers, like art, music, sports, Spanish, all chose the student they felt was most exemplary of the values or whatever that they teach in that class. And he or she got sportsmanship, best sportsmanship, and best art and creativity. I was so proud of her. And she was so excited. Like she was just standing on stage like, oh my goodness. And I was so glad she got to go and she got to see her friends one last time, and she walked around the class and gave everybody hugs. So congrats to my little ones who have made it through Evie's very first year of school. Next year, she will still be in pre-K, which is the pre-K 4-year-olds before she starts kindergarten. But anyway, Andrew will be in 7th grade. Very proud of both of them. So they're both doing so well, and I'm very proud of them. And I'm glad that they got to go. But now it is officially summer. And those of you that are either teachers or parents or grandparents or caretakers of children, you know what it's like once you get to summer, because it's like both exciting because you get to spend extra time with your kids, And it's also terrifying because now you have to entertain children instead of having your time to yourself to work all day. And since I don't go to a traditional office, it is, it's just more of a challenge to make sure that I can stick with my like morning routines. And George and I are a big team when it comes to this. Yeah, school's out. Love it. I should play that. I should blast that through the house today because neither one of them know that song. We should do it. We should do it. So I have some notes written down for you all because we're also going to talk today about changing your life over the next 6 months. And we talked about this a little bit last week. For those of you that were not here, I will just sort of catch you up on this. So 6 months for life is something that's there's no specific protocol or anything like that, but I'm going to give you some tips and how I've been thinking through this for myself. Hey, Mason, how are you? So yeah, so many other people are like, what? Your kids are out in May? Like some people don't get out till middle of June or July. So my kids are out for almost 3 full months, all of June, all of July, and half of August. And it's fine. I'm excited. I'm excited. Oh, yours doesn't even start till September. College starts in September, but I think different school districts are different either way. But I am determined to start back or embark on my own 6 months for life. And I thought about, I kind of tried to start one January, and I feel like it just didn't get off to as good a start. Although I did have one massive project come through, which is my house being fully organized. And so it has been a week since our organizers left, and the house has stayed pristine clean. The biggest challenge was yesterday I recorded a video of my Go Wild haul, which will be coming up tomorrow on Heart Breathings. And it everything exploded all over my other office. So I've got to make sure today to get that cleaned up. But otherwise, it's been so much easier to upkeep now that everything has a place. So that's a huge, if there was one thing I could have wanted to get accomplished, that was it. So I'm ready to start a new 6 month for life, and I'm starting June 1st. If you want to join me just as accountability buddies, we do have a channel. We have 2 channels in the Discord server. One is just called 6 months for life, and the other one is called something like 6 months for life food and diet, just so anybody who is triggered by discussions about dieting or food, things like that, doesn't have to see that in the regular 6 month for life one. It has a special channel just for that to keep it separate. 6 months for life is basically just a decision to say, over this next 6 months, I'm going to prioritize a certain area of my life or multiple areas of my life, but I'm going to prioritize myself and making some changes and transformations that will impact the rest of my life. So for me, having this house completely organized changes my whole life, because from here on out, as long as we can maintain that, it's going to change the way the house feels, the way the kids feel, the way that we, live in the home, the way we spend less time cleaning it all the time or whatever. So there's lots of good things about that. Thank you, Jennifer. So when we think about 6 months for life, I'm not sure if it updated the description. I did put a link in there to the previous 6 months for life workbook that I had made that was more of journaling stuff, but I am knee deep into work on a new 6 months for life journal. And I wanted to get that. It's really going to be kind of true to me, more of a planner. Let's be honest. This is more than journaling. This will be a 6 month planner that you can redate or do however you would like. But basically, this will be something I'm just going to give to you guys for free if anybody wants to do it. But I will not have it ready until next Friday, because we're going on a trip to North Carolina to see George's family. So it will be coming in kind of last minute, right before June begins. What even is next Friday? Are we already in June next Friday? We're not quite yet, right? It's like next Saturday. Yeah. Okay. So you guys will get it on the 31st. Or if I can get it done before then, if I get time miraculously to work on it, on the plane or tomorrow, I'll get it to you earlier and just be looking in the Discord server or the Facebook group for that. it's going to be nice to have something to use as a tracker for your habits or whatever. But we're going to kind of talk about how do you, or how am I coming up with what goals I'm focused on? And I know exactly, like laser focused, exactly what I'm going to be doing for 6 months for life. And I'll tell you how I came up with that and what I'm going to do in terms of setting goals. Now, I have tried multiple times to do 6 months for life in the way that I wanted to do it. And there have been so many attempts where it's like I haven't been able to really stick with the goal or follow through with it for 6 whole months, which is probably why I like 90-day planning so much, because it's so much easier in some ways to focus just 90 days at a time. So that's going to be part of my suggestion to you, is that if 6 months feels like so long to hold on to motivation or one specific goal, then it's okay to back it up and say, for the next 6 months, I'm going to prioritize myself. But in June, I'm going to prioritize this one aspect, and I'm just going to focus on June. And then at the end of June, I'm going to focus on or figure out what I'm going to focus on in July. Or like Jennifer just said, you could kind of do 2 90-day periods. Now, we still have 1 month left of Q2, but I'm just ready to go ahead and get started. So yeah, at the end of most months, a lot of us have to recalibrate anyway. So it's not a bad idea to have some kind of ritual for yourself, where at the end of the month, or like we are now a week before the end of the month, just kind of asking yourself the most 3 like simplest questions. What's working? What's not working? And what do I want to change or focus on moving forward? Those are the 3 most powerful questions you can ask yourself when it comes to productivity and transformation. What's working right now? Okay. So I'll explain how I go through this process. What's not working right now? And then what am I ready to focus on and change? One of the biggest problems, and I know this is true for a lot of you because we also have seen this in the Discord and in comments, and anytime we've talked about that, hey, Janine, is this idea of how do I not put too much on my plate? Because you can raise your hand in the comments if you're like me and so many other people, where once you start thinking about the ways you want to transform your life, there's like 50 different things that come up, right? It's like, oh, yay, 222. Woo. I love seeing those numbers. It makes me happy. And I'm gonna light a candle. We're gonna talk about full moon stuff today in just a minute. I brought my tarot cards. This is gonna be a good conversation. The biggest challenge today will be, how do I not talk for 2 hours? So yeah, Mary says it's so easy once we start thinking about transformation to identify and nitpick ourselves of saying, well, I want to eat better. I want to get better about sleep. I want to start, and we focus on like 1,000 habits, or we can easily focus on or identify all the ways we feel like we're not measuring up. Oh my gosh, I need to save more money, stop spending, have to find a way to make more money. I want to be writing more. I've got to fix the car. I want to quit this job. I want to be a better partner. I want to be a better mom or dad. I want to go on more vacations, or, you could identify so many different things that you want to do. But one of the ways that you set yourself up, for many of us, and not true for everybody, but one of the ways we tend to self-sabotage and set ourselves up for, although I hate to use the word failure, let's say for, what's another term I can use that? I'm just going to use failure. The way we set ourselves up for failure is by piling too many things on and having too high of expectations of ourselves that's completely unrealistic. Thank you. That's such a better word, because it's not failure. It's all growth, right? So love you guys. Perfect word. We set ourselves up for disappointment because we say, well, if I'm going to change, I want to change as quickly as possible. And when we start to focus on change, it can start to almost feel like anxiety right here in your solar plexus of, you say, I want to change it all. I want to change it as quickly as possible. I'm ready for real transformation. And what if I focus on this area and it's not enough and I don't see enough change? Or, when we start thinking about a big goal we want to see come true, sometimes we can it also starts to feel like we've put a deadline on ourselves. Like, I want to see that happen as quickly as possible. And it can feel frustrating to have to actually walk through the steps of seeing that transformation through. And so we put ourselves in this place where we think, okay, magically June 1st, January 1st, whatever it is, I'm going to just be a different person. This time it's going to be different. And it's easy to get ourselves potentially into a place of motivation where we can be like, yes, this is it. We've got the whole group. I've got my new planner. I've got my goals. I'm going to set up 10 new habits, and I'm just going to get up every morning at 5 a.m. and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this. And then I know that the reason I said this is true for me is because I know that not everybody's like me, and people have different ways of approaching goals and different blocks and different things that are their challenges. So Jennifer says, does anyone else not give themselves enough? And then you get bored. So that could be one possible thing, is like you are aware that you don't want to give yourself 20 new habits or all this big stuff. But at the same time, there might only be so much you can do every day toward it. So let's say I was trying to organize or clean my house, and did you guys hear that? Thunder. If I was trying to organize and clean my house, I could just pull everything out and try to fix the whole house in a weekend, but then probably I'm going to run out of energy, and then everything's more messy than it used to be. So I might say, okay, I'm just going to take it one small space at a time. Oh, you can hear it. Yeah, it's coming. The rain is starting. Yeah, no, last night one of my shelves fell, not these, but like something over here that's not attached. And I was like, oh my gosh. If we were trying to break that down, we might say, well, I'm going to do this one closet or this one bookshelf. But, that only takes you 10 or 15 minutes. And then you're kind of like, okay, what next? And then tomorrow you do another space. And then you're kind of like, is this really even making any difference? Or, I feel bored with this, or I'm not really challenging myself enough. And so I think one of the most difficult things, but is also one of the most important things, is getting to know yourself. Because I can only speak from my perspective and from what I've learned from talking to other people, but some of you may be on a totally different journey. And so you've got to figure out for yourself, what is it that I'm capable of that will be. And I feel like here's the, I hope I can express this correctly because it's so clear in my head, but I'm like, okay, let me see if I can say it correctly. We each need to, in my opinion, find that edge where we're not doing too much, but we're doing enough and putting enough expectation on ourselves to make it interesting and just slightly challenging, but not tip over to the place where it becomes impossible. And it is sometimes difficult to look at ourselves and say, what is that point where it becomes impossible? And sometimes we'll still pass over it. And the key sometimes with that is, once you begin to try to implement the things that you planned, you say, okay, this isn't actually realistic, right? I thought I could do this, but man, just even 2 days of trying to follow all 10 of those habits was too much. And sometimes we tend to go, well, then it sucks and I'm done and I quit. All or nothing mindset. Anybody else besides me? I know there have to be some of you. So the key there is to be able to step back and evaluate and say, okay, these 10 habits were too much. So what is it that I can do instead that is going to be just enough to challenge me to actually see change in my life, but where it's actually doable and sustainable, and how do I stick with it? So part of that comes with the first thing, which is, how do you identify what it is you're going to work on for the next 6 months? If you download, can somebody look in the description and tell me if that link to the Google Drive showed up in there? I updated it after I had originally posted it, so I'm hoping it's there. But it's just an A5 version and a letter size version of the 6 Month for Life, like journaling workbook. And if you want to download that, you can start with that. It's there. Thank you, Jenna. It's there. It's like pizza there. Sorry. Yes, it is there. So glad. You can go through some of that journaling to see, like, where's this problem keep coming up. That will help you begin to identify it. But one of the main things that you can do is to say, what are the patterns in my life that I keep repeating that are causing me the most pain that I also am available emotionally right now to deal with. So if you start looking or do a little bit of even just free writing journaling about like, what are the patterns that keep coming up that are really, I'm really just sick of it. Like when we say like, are you sick of your own shit? Right? Pardon my language. But are there places where you just like, I am tired of this pattern repeating over and over and over again in my life? And then the second part of that being like, and I'm emotionally able and available right now to begin working on it. Because you might have a pattern that keeps recurring, but every time you think about tackling it, there's too much trauma there or it's too emotionally charged, and you need to somehow get a hold on some of the simpler things in your life. Like, for example, let's say you do live in a really messy house. Not trying to call anybody out, just kind of myself. You live in a really messy house, but then you also feel like your health isn't very good. And you've got this like recurring habit of like constantly getting yourself into debt because you're self-soothing, right? It might be that the money problem with the debt is too difficult to tackle over these next 6 months because there's childhood trauma around there. There's a lot of, every time you look at your bank account, you feel panicked, or you feel like I am stuck in this job and there's not a lot that I can do to change this situation yet. And you would say, I can't deal with that right now. But what I can do is I can clean up this space. And that once that space is clean, it kind of gives you a little bit of breathing room after this 6 months when your house is organized or you've decluttered a little bit and even seen the things that you have. So maybe you don't want to shop as much because you have all this stuff that you've kind of unburied from the mess in your house or whatever. This is just, purely a random example that I know won't resonate with everybody, but it gives you that opportunity to be able to say, I'm going to deal with this thing that feels accessible to me right now, that feels doable to me right now. And I'm going to let that bigger thing that feels too emotional and not possible for me to tackle it yet, I'm going to leave that for after this 6 months. So see if that, you can identify first, what are these patterns that keep happening? What are the ones that I'm emotionally able to, when I look at that, I feel motivated and I feel excited to tackle it rather than like panicked and start to have an anxiety attack over it. Try to pick something that has that a little bit of excitement to it, that little bit of, wow, this really would make a big difference. And that you say, okay, this is where I'm going to start. And that feels good to me right now. So one of the things that you can do to access that is if you started writing down patterns that continue to repeat, it could be in the category of finances, your job, relationships, people taking advantage of you, could be regarding your confidence, your space or your environment in some way. It could be having to do with courage to try a new career path or to express yourself with a certain kind of art. Like it's literally could run the gamut of anything you can think of. Patterns that are repeating or desires that you have for things you'd like to change in your life. So that's the first thing, is just kind of to write all those things down. And I will I will put some of this in that release of the workbook. When is Disappearance of Vanessa Shaw being released? I do have some updates. I do not have, I was saying, I will go back to the other thing, but I wanted to address this first before the comment disappeared. I am on final edits. We're through Act 1. So this will start going out to betas probably next week. And hopefully next Friday, I will officially announce a release date. So it will either be June or July. I feel certain. It just depends on beta comments, or on when I get it out to betas, but fingers crossed, we are very, very close now. So it will be out this summer. I feel like I can say that with a surety. Oh no, I don't know why that might be happening. I can, if you email me, sarah@sarracannon.com, I can email it to you directly. Can you have this breathing room without worrying if you'll fail, if you miss a step, that you don't panic about missing a step, going to that place that you had to go to? we'll kind of address this in just a second. Do you ever struggle with planning and then fearing something will happen that'll mess it all up, kind of like the other shoe dropping? Yeah, that is also a limiting belief. So let me see if I can pull myself back. I do already have beta readers, and I'm planning to just use those same beta readers, except I do have an extra mystery author that's going to be reading it. Sorry, I'm switching topics. But I will need some ARC readers. So there will be some spots available for that. Okay, so the patterns that keep repeating. And then out of that list, if you just kind of brain dump that list, patterns, desires, things you want to change, but be careful, of course, if making big lists of changes makes you feel more anxiety. So if you know yourself well enough to know that if you sit down and start to identify all the places that you have patterns or desires that you want to change, and you know it's going to start to make you focus on the negative and feel drowned, then don't do that part of the exercise. Instead, what I would recommend is you just close your eyes and think, if I could change one thing about my life that I feel like I have control over, what would it be? And just whatever your intuition comes up as the number one thing, just focus there and don't make a whole list. So it just kind of depends on your personality. But the way that I've done this is patterns that keep repeating. For me, the number one pattern that keeps repeating is that I am not prioritizing my own health. Yes. It's the reality that gets you. I feel it. I love making lists too. I actually have this cup that says lists are my love language. How cute is that? That's from Simplified Planner. Oh, thank you, Joanne. I started kind of writing down some of the patterns, and there's multiple patterns. I can't tackle all of them in 6 months. So once I came up with a few things like my health, I really want to do more for like saving for retirement. I want to create more balance in my life in terms of between the writing side of things and the Heart Breathing's YouTube course side of things. I'm always searching for that balance. But when I write down all of those patterns and all of those lists and things that keep repeating, I'm listening to my intuition too. And I'm asking myself, what is the number one thing that if I was able to shift that in the next 6 months would make the most difference across all the other pieces of it? And that's why the health becomes the number one thing, because I know that if I can prioritize getting any of these like issues that I deal with PCOS, which I know some of you also have polycystic ovarian syndrome, it is fatigue, hormone dysregulation, insulin resistance, which can cause migraines. It causes cysts on my skin. It causes skin tags. It causes, like I said, dysregulated sleep. It causes depression and anxiety, like all kinds of issues that come up from PCOS that I know make such a difference if I'm exercising or at least walking every day, and I'm doing meditation and mindfulness or like yoga or somatic workouts. That stuff makes a huge difference for me. Taking all of my supplements, drinking enough water, getting enough sleep, all of those things make such a huge difference. Again, don't want to create a triggering thing, but it also, the things that I put into my body that nourish my body, also important for not just, weight or anything like that, but mainly for brain fog issues. Anybody here that does have PCOS, you know that it can, when your hormones are dysregulated at certain parts in your cycle or certain parts when you've been eating too much inflammation and other things like that, it is like, not only does it cause pain in your body, but it also causes so much like issues with word retrieval, issues with brain fog. Yes. And it's like a cement wall. So I know that when I was taking care of my body to the best of my ability, specifically not for my own needs, but because I desperately wanted a child and knew that that was the only way I was going to regulate my hormones, I wrote 5 books that year, started a YouTube channel, and taught myself how to create planners, and started my lifelong dream of creating planners. And that all happened in 1 year, 2018, because I was taking such good care of my health. I was walking on the beach every day. I was eating great. I was spending a lot of time like sleeping, self-care, just all of that kind of stuff, things that were really good and nourishing for my body. And when I think about all the different things that I want to do, I want to take, I'm a learner. Anybody else follow strengths and is high learner? I'm like number 3 learner. It is huge for me that I love to always be taking courses. If anybody on Instagram has like a free webinar, I'm signing up for it. I'm going to sign up for everything. I love to learn, and I love on multiple different, I love to learn about Renee and I, we feel that pain. Lifelong learner. Yeah, exactly. Jennifer is as well. I love to learn. Oh, you're number 1 learner too, Mason. I did not know that. High learner for Mary and KH. So those of you that are high learner, it is really fun and exciting to take new courses, to expand your knowledge, to like just go down rabbit holes and stuff like that. When you have massive brain fog though, and you have trouble with focus because it's almost like you're holding your brain back by not having it, you're just not treating your body well. It's very difficult to learn and focus as well as write. And sometimes when I desperately want to sit down and be working on my story, I cannot focus. I can't make anything come together. I just start to feel like I could fall asleep at my keyboard because I just can't think straight. And I know that changes significantly when my PCOS is under control. And so for me, when I'm looking at patterns that keep reemerging, as well as what thing can I focus on if I was just going to focus on one thing, what could I focus on that would have the biggest ripple effect? Like you think about, you throw a rock into a pond and it has that ripple effect. What rock could you throw into your pond in terms of, let me fix my health? Boom. How does that ripple into the rest of your life? Writing better. So then the balance becomes easier. The more I have balanced, the more I can make more money. And the more money I make, the more I can start to save for retirement. Also, the more I can spend time with my children, be more active, spend more time outside. Like there's so much that I could do if my health was better. And so for me, I have identified that rock that I'm throwing into the pond. And so your first step, if you want to do 6 months for life, and you can feel free to do it however you want. There's no rules. This literally doesn't belong to anyone. So just do whatever you want. But for me, oh, Marin, congratulations. Just found out I'm expecting. Energy is so drained. It will I don't know if this is your first, but it will get better. But sleep as much as you need to, for sure. But yes, that's very exciting. And brain fog is a lot. And especially once you get pregnant, it's like, I couldn't write for 2 years with each pregnancy because I'm just like brain fog completely. But if you can identify the patterns, the things that you want to change, is saying mental health too broad a topic? I think so for me, I'm putting health, and that's a broad topic. Mental health is going to be attached to that. So once you kind of have that topic, even if it's a broad topic, health, organizing, balance, you might have a big thing, mental health. Then I want you to start thinking about, what are the actual changes I want to see? Like, what are the results? And one of the best ways that you can do this is, let's take mental health, for example. You want to work on your mental health. So once we're done with this coffee chat, if you can even sit, and do a little bit of meditating or a little bit of journaling, close your eyes and think ahead to November 30th or December 31st, the end of the year, or even a year from now, whatever feels good to you, and say, if I have dedicated myself to improving my mental health for the next 6 months, and it becomes a true focus and priority for me, what will change in my life in the next 6 months? What do I want to see change in the next 6 months? So for me, when I do that and I think about what will feel good to see different in my life in 6 months, if I really focus on my health, my physical health with PCOS, number one things I'm expecting to see are higher energy, less brain fog, more clarity of thought, the energy is probably the biggest one, but just even if I can just identify those three things: better energy, better sleep, better clarity of thought. With your mental health, you could identify a couple of things like that too. It doesn't have to be this big laundry list, but just a few things with mental health that you would want to see different or changed, and make a list of that. So you could say, like, I want to have a more regulated nervous system where I'm not feeling triggered by so many different things. I want to feel more neutral or content instead of so many highs and lows. That could look different for everybody. I want to be able to get out of bed more often. Like, it depends on where you're starting with your mental health to see what would feel like a significant change for you. But if you sit there and you just visualize, if you're good at visualizing, if you're not good at visualizing, just put it on paper, just write it down. What changes would I like to see in 6 months? And then reverse engineer it. So for me, if I'm saying I want better energy, I want better clarity of thought, and I want better sleep, then what I'm going to focus on is all the things that it will take for me to get to that point. And so I'm going to start with a list of habits, which for me, 6 months for life is going to be a focus on better habits. I'm going to focus on what habits are the biggest for me to start with. But I am not going to make a laundry list of 20 different habits to start on June 1st. I'm going to start with one major thing. And for me, that's going to be focusing first on breakfast. So I eat breakfast every day, but I know that one of the biggest things that's going to change for me with my PCOS is taking my supplements in the morning and eating a healthy, high protein breakfast, low carb, high protein breakfast. So I'm going to focus on that. And I'm going to spend the first week, month, however long it takes, focused on eating that healthy breakfast. And then the next thing I might do is start on lunch and trying to, once I've consistently gotten my breakfast down, I'm going to focus on lunch. And once I've got breakfast and lunch down, I'm going to focus on healthier snacks or no snacking at all. Then I might add in exercise. But for me, it's very much going to be, if you've heard me talk about game board strategy, I'm very much going to try something over this next 6 months of game board strategy where I say, I've got this, and once it's solid, I'm going to add the next piece, the next piece, the next piece, the next piece. So imagine yourself 6 months from now and think, what are the changes I most want to see that would feel the most significant, that feel achievable? And then what actions do I need to take between now and then to start to see that change? And then make yourself a list and start following it, and try not to, like I said, try not to add more than is possible, but not so little that it doesn't feel like you're making a difference, right? So when you read books like Atomic Habits, for example, there's a lot of good information in there. And there's also a lot of stuff that is difficult because he talks about 1% better. I think it can be difficult to expect ourselves to be 1% better all the time because life isn't linear like that. We might have one really good week and then something happens externally, like we got in a car accident or our daughter broke her wrist, or we just have a bad bout with our mental health or depression. And there's not 1% better isn't accessible in that second week. And so if we're aiming for 1% better every single week or every single day, like he talks about, it's not actually possible for us to do that if we're somebody who goes through kind of a roller coaster of emotions. And so a lot of times what happens when we have that expectation of ourselves is we say, well, it's impossible for me. And we blame ourselves and we say, well, I'm never going to be good enough. I messed up. I'm a bad person. I'm incapable. And we start to tell limiting beliefs. We start to reinforce limiting beliefs that say, well, see, there you go. I'm not somebody who can follow through. So that's kind of my problem with Atomic Habits, because not everybody's capable of that upward trajectory of 1% better and stacking. Like I think he says something like, if you just got 1% better, you'd be like 4,000% better by the end of the year. But it's like, for me, it never is like that. I might have one really good day followed by a really bad day. But as long as I can get up the next day and do my best, that's the best I can do. And so it's not always going to be 1% better. Sometimes it's going to be better and then worse and then better and then worse. Kind of think of it like a I'm trying to think of what somebody mentioned before. It's kind of like you're on an escalator. What, baby? You don't want me to notice you. This is our lives right now. She wants to tell me exactly how to play with her, so I'm told not to notice her right now. Pretend, like, imagine that you're on an escalator that's always moving up. You might move 2 or 3 steps backwards, but you're still always moving forward, right? Because the escalator is always moving, even if it's slowly moving. So just kind of understanding, bye, sweet girl, understanding your patterns of ups and downs, and giving yourself grace and permission, but committing over the next 6 months that I'm going to continue to pull myself back to every day. How can I say, is there any way I can take this one area of my life and continue to improve? So that's the first thing. I'm going to walk you through some of this in the workbook. Then I recommend that you choose just one main area. Instead of, when I first started doing 6 months for life, I was like, I'm going to choose 3 areas. I'm going to do my house and this and that. And I every single time have really, really struggled to focus on more than one area, because I already have all these other goals. Like, I'm already working on HB90 and, my writing and all these other things. So if I'm going to add something, it has to be something that's really doable. For me, it has to be something that feels motivating and that I'm going to see results from. And so that's part of why I'm going to be tracking every day. What did I do towards this goal? Or if I wasn't able to follow through on my 6 months for life, like on PCOS, like I didn't take my supplements today, or I didn't get up in time, or, whatever, didn't get 6 hours of sleep or 8 hours of sleep or whatever I'm aiming for at the time, I can do a little bit of journaling every day. And this will be part of the planner that I'm going to give you guys. A little bit of journaling every day that says, why wasn't I able to follow through? And saying something really nice to myself about why it's okay that I didn't, and how I'm going to get back on track for tomorrow. So I'll share this more with you guys next week. And if I get a chance, like I said, I'll try to upload it earlier because I know we're getting to the last minute. But don't take on too much. And remember, too, this is not about motivation and willpower and discipline all the time. If we're looking at an extended 6-month period of time, it is very difficult to stay motivated, disciplined, and have high willpower every single day for the next 6 months. And so it's really important to come into this sort of understanding who you are, understanding what a win looks like for you at this point in time, and allowing yourself to celebrate what a win is. 2 days in a row of following your habits and then 3 days off the rails might still be a big win for you if you've never made it more than 1 day at a time. And so begin to keep track of evidence that you're on the right track, that you're moving forward, instead of chronicling your failures as if you just aren't capable of it and giving up when you see that negative reinforcement. So what we're trying to do with 6 months for life is constantly look for positive reinforcement. I made it 3 days before I did a binge eat session, or before I had a donut, or before I, left everything on my floor and didn't clean up after myself, or I made it 3 whole days before I ended up staying up too late and I only got 3 hours of sleep. Like, whatever it is that you're working on, instead of saying, well, I suck because I had a whole night of never, I love this. Fill the jar, but don't take out of it. It's like, it can also be important to know what motivates you, because for some people, I almost said in the room, because we're just all sitting here together. For some people, the idea of discipline, and I mean, I'm not going to say it's necessarily a feminine versus a masculine thing, but a lot of men are more motivated by the idea of discipline, like make it hard, show up every day, be disciplined. Whereas a lot of women are not as motivated by that, but it is an individual thing. It's not as black and white and clear as that. But it can be helpful to know yourself as an individual and say, what actually motivates me? Does the idea of being disciplined and strict and rigid and showing up every day and like, go, 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 like rah, kind of almost like army mentality, does that motivate you and keep you moving forward? Or does it demotivate you the second you've fallen off track? And just kind of trying to tailor your 6 months for life to the way you personally work and feel motivated, rather than the way somebody else works and feels motivated, if that makes sense. Like truly just create the thing that's right for you rather than trying to fall into what works for other people. Another advice, and actually because it's 45 after, I knew I was going to be talking too long. I'm going to go ahead and light this candle. Did this light go off? Come back on. This candle is a new chapter candle. So I'm going to light this for all of us as if, you know, even if you just want to sit with me for a second and be thinking about what it is you want to commit to for the next 6 months, or if you don't want to do 6 months for life, like some kind of change that you want to see, I'm going to light this candle in hopes and wishes that we, in the next 6 months or by the end of this year, will have all made significant progress on that desire for our lives, and let it be a brand new chapter in your life for the better. It's like a little, I love these candles. So this is our new chapter candle. I'll put this here for you. I'm going to draw a tarot card in a minute too. I got this box from Lunam Love. I do her subscription box, which is every other month. And the box this time is called Own Your Power. Look at how stunning this candle is. Oh my gosh. She's got me with the purple glitter. This candle is rose and musk, and it is meant to unlock more of your power and completely own it to help you achieve this state of being. There's like a little spell that goes with it. And it came with this gorgeous smoky quartz. Look at that chunk. I love it. And it came with this Own Your Power ritual oil. Very cool. I love it. This candle is, I just want to pet it. It's so amazing. Those are your key scents for your character. I love it. I opened it. It was like, oh, it's kind of like gray. And then I opened it and saw the purple. I was like, yes. And it smells so good. Oh my gosh, she's incredible. So I'm going to do this Own Your Power thing for myself. But anyway, a couple more tips, and then we're going to draw a tarot card. So don't take on too much, because while in this moment, you might be able to convince yourself that you can do 6 months of discipline. Sometimes for a lot of us, including me, that is difficult to ride on discipline. So instead, what I need is positive momentum as often as possible and grace when I mess up. So I don't think you can purchase this candle, Lori. This is from her subscription box, but you can check. The website is Lunam Love. With a .com on the end of it. Second tip is be wary of decision fatigue. So there is, when we are talking about willpower and discipline, we only have so much executive function, and everybody's will, like, think of your willpower as a reservoir. We all have a different amount of willpower. It is not an inherent human thing to say that everybody has 50 milliliters of willpower, right? That is not true for everybody. And in fact, what they say is, if you've ever listened to Huberman Lab, and he talks about neuroscience and other things, is that the more often you do things that you don't want to do, like the more you discipline yourself to say, I don't feel like writing today, but I'm going to do it, the more you actually increase your reservoir of willpower. And I haven't read the studies on this. I'm just going off of what I've heard on his podcast. So if it's BS, somebody let me know where the research is. But it makes sense to me that the more we sort of build that muscle of, I did something even though I didn't want to do it, the better we are going to be at continuing to follow through with that willpower. But if you have been somebody who has, either through trauma or just your lifestyle or your way of being or whatever, you just have never really been one to do things you don't like to do, your sense of willpower, or where you are in your life, or if you're dealing with chronic illness that constantly is taking willpower out of you just to get out of bed, or depression that takes willpower, you will have less reserve. So it's worthless to compare yourself to other people when it comes to willpower and discipline. It's more helpful to say, here's what I think I can handle. Here's when I start to fall off of the thing I thought I was going to do. Like, just to give an example, if one of your things was, I'm going to become part of the 5 a.m. club and I'm just going to get up every day at 5 a.m. and I'm going to get on the treadmill, or I'm going to go through my journaling in the morning. If you know that you can do that 9 times out of 10, but that 10th time you struggle to get up at 5 a.m., it can be important to look and say, what else is going on in my life? What other factors have made it difficult for me to get up at 5 a.m.? And you might find that like the day before you stayed up too late, or you were helping a friend, or you really ate something that really causes a lot of inflammation in your body. If you constantly find that you're not able to follow through on the thing you said you were going to follow through on, it's almost never, if not never, because you just can't follow through, or because you're just a bad person, or because you're not worthwhile, or because you can't stick to something. It usually has to do with other external factors that are draining our willpower, our discipline, our ability to follow through. And so we're looking for something that is easy to do. And sometimes the easier thing is to just hit snooze on the alarm because you just don't have the energy. Right. Becca Syme talks about energy pennies. In chronic illness, people talk about spoons. And it can happen. It's true for all of us. We have different sort of levels of willpower. And so if you're finding that you're not following through, sometimes it can be helpful to look around like a 360 eagle eye view of what else is going on in my life that might be stealing all of my willpower right now. Like if it's taking everything in you to not like blow up at your boss at work, then maybe it's harder to come home and not drink that glass of wine because it took all your willpower all day not to like rage quit your job. So all of those things interplay with it. It's not your fault. It's just energy management, right? So one of the ways that you can help support yourself is not only to identify some of those things that are stealing your willpower and see if you can mitigate them, but also to take away some of the decisions that you're making in your life every day. Like, what am I wearing? And we've talked about this in NaNoWriMo before of basically pre-making decisions or getting into easy routines. Like if you don't have to get up every day and think about what you're going to wear, then that's one less decision you have to make. So it could be either the night before you lay out your clothes, or you sort of adopt a uniform where you say, I'm going to wear these. I'm going to buy 5 pairs of these shorts and 5 of these t-shirts. And I'm just going to wear this short and a t-shirt every single day for the next 6 months. Some of us, if you have a full-time job outside of the home, you can't do that. But eliminating decisions instead of saying, I'm going to sit down and have to make a decision about what I'm eating every time I sit down to eat. I'm just going to have the same breakfast every single morning. And sometimes that every day, right? Don't rage quit. Don't do it. Don't do it. And this is true too. Sometimes it might just be a thing that isn't for you, like getting up at 5 a.m. If you keep skipping it, if it keeps being something you're resisting, there might be a reason behind it. And so then you might want to do some journaling about like, why don't I want to do this? Is it because it's really not something I was doing? It was something I was doing because other people told me it would improve my life, but I actually like being a night owl. So that can be good too. And I think really the process of 6 months for life, I hate that it's 54 minutes. How have we been talking so long? I had so much more I wanted to say. The process of 6 months for life can be so much more helpful rather than saying on June 1st, I'm setting this goal and I'm going to stick to it every single day. And better for many of us to be a process of, I want to improve this area of my life in these ways, and then turn around and say, every single day, I'm going to reevaluate what's working, what's not working, and what am I going to do tomorrow. So that's going to be part of the daily planner that you guys will get next week. So simplify where you can. I know we need a 2-hour coffee chat. So true, so true. Then a couple of tools that you can use if you are trying to create new habits. And these do, I think, both come from, he talks about them in Atomic Habits. He was not the first person to create them, but he does talk about them. One is habit stacking, where if you say, I want to read my Bible every day, and you already sit down outside with a cup of coffee every morning, bring your Bible with you. So you stack that with something that you're already doing, right? If you already are waking up at 5 a.m. but you want to remember to brush your teeth every day, then you could say, okay, when the alarm goes off, I brush my teeth. So you can stack things. And then once you have a stack of 2, and that is a solid habit, you can stack a 3rd and a 4th and so on. Another thing that can help if you don't resonate with habit stacking is habit bundling. So habit bundling is this idea of putting kind of the carrot and the stick at the same time. So if you have something that you really, really are looking forward to. So for example, like, oh, I love listening to this podcast. One of my favorite podcasts is called Spooked. It's like true ghost stories or haunting kind of stories. I love that podcast, like supernatural stuff. If I said to myself, I can only listen, like if I was trying to create a habit of going for a walk every day, I would say I can only have the carrot, the podcast, if I'm also doing the walk. And so you bundle something you want to do with something you don't want to do. And that can help you to accomplish it. So if you love your coffee and you're like, morning, gotta have my coffee, you can create a habit bundle where you say, I can only have my coffee if I'm also reading my Bible, or I can only have my coffee if I'm also taking one of those damn courses that I bought last year that I still haven't taken. Like every time I drink coffee, I have to watch a video, and you can bundle those things together. So as you start thinking about your plan, you can start bundling things. Then another thing that can be helpful is to track your habits and gamify it in some way, where you could literally create an entire board, a game board. You could create a Notion template for yourself. You could create just a checklist that's like, if I say I'm not going to break the chain on, we're going to just use getting up at 5 a.m., even though that's not a goal of mine. If you say, or I'll say, taking my supplements every day. I have like 5, 7, I don't know. George puts out my pills. I think I have 8 pills that I take every morning. And they're still sitting out there because I didn't take them this morning, and I want to get better about taking them every day. So if I said, I'm going to put up in my planner a habit tracker of taking those 8 pills every day. And if I can check off 7 days this week without missing a day, without breaking the chain, then I also get to go have a coffee. Or if I can do it 7 days in a row, I get to sit down and read a book this afternoon. Something that feels like a reward, and you can gamify it. Then you could say, okay, I'm on 7-day streak. I don't want to break that. So let's do a 14-day streak. And then continue to try to build and stack on that. The key with that is that if you miss a day, just get right back on instead of saying all or nothing, right? Or revamp it and say, okay, I never hit 7 days a week, so this isn't motivating for me anymore. So I'm going to just try for 3 days a week, and that's going to be a win for me, which is kind of a constant ability to refresh your mindset to make it really easy to win. Easy wins. So those are kind of my 6 months for life things. And let's draw a card. If you want to, we have almost 250 people on right now. If you want to say that you're doing 6 months for life, you could put like a heart emoji or a smiley face or a star or something in the comments, just so we can see who is thinking of doing it. If you want, no pressure. But I'm going to draw just one card. Like, is there a message for us of what we all need to keep in mind as we embark on setting our goals for what we're going to change in the next 6 months? I do feel like I am going to record potentially a month at a time how I'm doing the process of continuing to create habits, having grace as I go, and what changes are happening in my life, because I think it will be helpful for me to actually record it. Plus, it'll keep me accountable. So I have the Light Seers Tarot deck, which is my favorite. So what is something we need to keep in mind? Of course, Two of Swords. So something to keep in mind as we all think about embarking on this journey. I get this card entirely too much. And I've had this card twice this week, so I'm not surprised when that jumped out yet again. But you can see on here, you've got somebody who is blindfolded and also has these crows. She's got kind of like scales here on her arm, like scales of justice. to me, what this card is saying to me right now, which might also resonate with some of you, this is kind of a tough love card. Twos are often about choices. What this card is saying is, as you start thinking about what you might want to change and whether you want to commit to this, it's saying, make a damn decision already. Decide how it is you're going to change your life and move forward to the thing that you know. Like, stop pretending that you're blindfolded and you don't know how to change your life. Stop pretending that you don't know what to do. And instead say, I'm going to commit to this and I'm going to make a change. I'm going to do this for real. I'm going to take the blindfold off and I'm going to see the truth of the situation that I'm in right now. I'm going to stop ignoring the change that needs to happen in my life. I'm going to stop pretending it doesn't exist. And instead, I'm going to rip the blindfolds off and I'm going to commit to making the change that I know I'm ready to make. And it is definitely a tough love choice. But it's like basically the choice that you're faced with right now is either, do you stay where you are or do you make the changes that you're ready to make? And for me, what keeps coming back is this has been a recurring pattern in your life, Sarah, for so many years, that you're not prioritizing your own needs, that you're not taking care of yourself because you're always trying to you're always trying to prove yourself. You're always trying to serve other people. You're always trying to achieve and continue on to meet goals. But all of that is just focused externally. If I want to level up, it's time to focus on myself and getting my health in order so that I can then use that as a springboard for every achievement later in my life. But I've got to take care of myself, or eventually I'm going to come to a head where life is going to stop or my health is going to hold me back. And for many of us, what this card basically is saying is, for many of us, you already know what it is that needs to change in your life. And it's time to take that blindfold off and see the truth, see what it is, face it, and say, okay, in this next 6 months or for the rest of this year, or even in the next year, it's time to make that change and see it for what it is, and love yourself through the process and start taking the actions that you know. For many of us, it's in the whispers anyway. You've had it going through your mind over and over and over again. I got to change this. I got to change this. I got to change this. But now it's time to actually take those steps to make that change. So yeah, that tough love from tarot today. What are you doing? What are you doing? So any of that resonated, take it with you. Anything that didn't resonate or didn't feel good, ignore. But I'm excited for the next 6 months for life stuff. We'll just say I've got some things brewing, and every single time, like, Renee will send me a message on Discord and she'll say, check your email, because there's good news coming through from things that I've dreamed about my whole life. And I know the only thing that's going to hold me back is me. And when my intuition is constantly saying to me, even if it's something that feels unrelated to my career, when my intuition keeps saying, you got to deal with this, you got to deal with this, you got to deal with this, the more I ignore it, the louder that gets, until eventually it's going to hit a point where it says, I'm going to stop everything and you're going to be in an emergency situation, and it's going to be time that you're forced to deal with it. And I don't want it to get to that point. So this is my commitment publicly and internally of saying, starting June 1st, I am making a commitment to take care of my health in big, substantial ways. And it doesn't mean I'm going to be perfect. And it doesn't mean I'm going to follow through perfectly every day, or I'm going to stay on board every single minute of every day. That's not possible. But what I am going to do is I'm going to make myself and my own needs a priority when it comes to my health over the next 6 months. And my job over the next week is to make a plan that basically allows me to have the spaciousness to do that. So whatever that looks like for you, embrace it and know that you have a support system here. We do have a Discord server where we have accountability group. There's an accountability channel, then there's also 6 Months for Life channel, and there's a 6 Months for Life food and diet channel. So feel free to use any of those resources. If you are not in Discord, but you're on Facebook, feel free to also post stuff in either the HB90 group if you want to add it to your HB90 goals, if you're part of that group, or to the Facebook group on the Coven. I was wondering too, I know we're going a little bit over time, but if you would like to, we could also try to find buddies. So if you wanted like an accountability buddy for 6 Months for Life from the community, maybe we could find a way to either reach out or to create another space where people could try to group up together with friends. And if you don't know anybody in the community yet, I could try to say, okay, we'll pair you with somebody that's interested in also having an accountability buddy, and you guys can create your own like email chain or Facebook Messenger or whatever it might be to do that. So feel free to use any of those resources that you would like. And that is our coffee chat today. So hopefully next week, I will have 2 things for you: a release date and a pre-order set up for Disappearance of Vanessa Shaw. It's coming. And hopefully a really kick-ass workbook for 6 Months for Life that you can use for the next 6 months. If you want to print it out or use it digitally, I'll probably provide both. So that is it. If you are in the Raleigh area, we are going to be getting together on Tuesday afternoon at the Morgan Street Food Hall. If you would like to join in and you want more details, feel free to send me an email or a DM somewhere, and I will get that info for you. It will also be going out in email. Listen, Mason, that release date, where'd it go? That release date is going to feel so good. And I have worked with a coach, Andrea Crowder, somewhat recently, and she says all the time, think about how it will feel to have done. And so when you think about your 6-month goals, think about how will this feel on the other side if I've actually done it, and let that be your source of motivation and belief in yourself of this time I'm doing it. I'm making this change, and think of how good that will feel. And that's what's carrying me through with Vanessa Shaw right now, is just think how good it's going to feel when that book is out in the world, and hopefully you all buy it and love it. All right. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I just am truly grateful. So I'm sending that gratitude to you. I'm going to keep this new chapter candle burning for an hour or so in here, just for all of you. And I will see you all next week after we are home from our trip, and we will be getting started on release date stuff. And also I'll be announcing when my Ream tiers are going to be going up and live for you to start purchasing at the Founders tier. So all that news coming next week. I super love you all. Happy summer. Happy Memorial Day for everybody that is here in the US. And I will see you all next time. Not next time. Say bye, everybody. Can you say bye? Say bye.